Hello, dear students. I am Dr. Sanjay Pagar, Associate Professor, Department of Geography. I welcome all of you in this online lecture series on behalf of Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samajas, KRT Arts, BH Commerce, and AM Science, popularly known as KTHM College Nasik. Dear students, this is our S.Y.B.Sc class, and we are studying Geography paper first, that is Environmental Geography. Dear student, today we are going to start a very important chapter of our subject, and chapter number 3, Environmental Problem, Global Issues and India's Major Problem. Dear student, this chapter will cover the major global environmental problems such as climate change, ozone depletion and loss of biodiversity. And in case of India, we are going to discuss the major problems that are related to the environment. The first is again loss of biodiversity, water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution and nuclear pollution. Dear student, this is our lecture number 18 of our subject, and in this chapter number 3, that is environmental problem, global issues and India's major problem, we are going to discuss a very important subtopic of this chapter, that is climate change. Dear student, before talking more about the today's topic, let us revise what we have discussed in our last lecture. We have discussed in our last lecture human life in the coastal region, especially the physical feature of the coastal region. It includes the physiography, vegetation, animal life, and human activity that are developed or we observe in the coastal region. And lastly, we have already discussed what are the major problems we observe in the coastal region. Dear student, for today's lecture, we have learning objective to discuss the problem of climate change. Dear student, you know that the climate change is one of the major challenges for the international community. And the climate change is also known as a global warming or the global phenomenon. The significant change over the global time, we term it as a climate change. And I just mentioned that the climate change, also called the global warming, it refers to the rise in the average temperature on the Earth's surface. There are numbers of the scholars and scientists and the institute try to define the term climate change. So let us discuss very important definitions that are given by USA's Geological Survey. And at international level, this definition is very important. According to this institute, the climate change refers to the increasing change in the measure of the climate over a long period of time, including precipitation, temperature, and wind pattern. If you see this definition, two things are very important. The first thing, that measure of the climate. Measure of the climate means what? That indicators we use to measure the climatical condition. It includes precipitation, rainfall, wind factor, humidity, intensity of the sunlight, wind speed, and so many things. But here, as per this definition, three measures are very important. That first is precipitation, and second is temperature, and third one is the wind pattern. When there is a large change in the phenomena of these things at the international level, then it is known as the climate change. Another one definition of climate change is also very important. Climate change describes a change in the average condition such as temperature, rainfall in a region over a long period of time. Dear student, again you see in this definition also, they give more emphasis in the change in the average condition of the temperature and the rainfall. When you observe there is a large scale change for a long period of time in temperature and rainfall at the international level, then this phenomena is known as a climate change. So this is very important. Then you know that the climate change refers to the average long-term change over the entire Earth. This includes warming temperatures and change in precipitation, as well as the effect of Earth warming, such as we observe this all the impact of the global warming or the climate change in the form of rising the sea level, shrinking the mountain glacier, and also one important thing that the ice melting at a faster rate than usual what we have in the Greenland, Antarctica, and the Arctic and the other tundra region. And there is also one thing is very important. There is a change in flower and plant blooming times. The blooming time is also changed at the international level. If we study the latest phenomena that we observe at the international level, at many places, the cropping season or the flowering of the flowering plants and these things are slightly changed. So this means all these things is nothing but it is the effect of the climate change. Dear student, you know that the significant that I mentioned some effects or the impact of the global warming that we observe at the international level. Again, I would like to mention the few of them again here. The first is change in the precipitation. The precipitation pattern, rainfall pattern is really changed during last some years. There is also sea level rising, that level of the sea is rising by some centimeter. It is observed at the international level. Whatever the study carried out during last few years that indicated that yes, there is a sea level rising. Again, one thing is there, loss of biodiversity, and again one important thing that intensified cyclone, ozone layer also depleting, and there is an extreme weather condition. Means all these things, these are the things that indicated us, shown us that yes, there is a climate change at the international level. Dear student, let us discuss what are the causes that factor are responsible for the global climate change. So let us discuss. There are two types of the causes. The first are the natural causes, and second thing are the man-made causes or the human causes. The first thing that responsible, the causes that are responsible for the climate change, that is a volcanic eruption. At the time of the volcanic eruption, there is a discharge of the release of carbon dioxide, ash, sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. When all these things release during the process of eruption, these pollutants scatter incoming solar radiation and causing a slight cooling effect. These all things responsible for climate change. So this is very important thing. Second important, the causes behind the climate change is the sunspot of the sun. The sunspot of the sun also responsible for climate change. The sunspot means the darker area over the sun surface. It found every 11 years. More sunspot contribute the warmer global climate change. When there is a when the increase in the number of sunspot on the sun surface, that time that directly affect on the climate change. So this is also very important natural reason behind the climate change. Third one, that greenhouse gases. Dear student, this is very important factor that contribute in the climate change. The greenhouse is the gas that absorb and emit energy within the thermal interface range. Greenhouse gases cause the greenhouse effect. Release the greenhouse gases is the direct cause of rapid changing the climate change. The gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen oxide are the major greenhouse gases that are responsible for the climate change. So we will also discuss that the greenhouse gases also, the man-made thing is also, the human being also responsible to release the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere through its various activity. We will discuss when we are going to discuss the man-made causes. That time we again discuss on this topic. Then other one important thing, that the ozone depletion. Yes, ozone depletion is also one natural factor or the reason that are responsible for the climate change. Dear student, you know that there are certain natural processes such as sunspot, stratospheric winds, volcanic eruption. These all the natural things or the process are responsible for ozone depletion. Due to the depletion of the ozone layer, ultraviolet rays can easily reach on the Earth's surface, and they causes the global climate change on their surface. Then second reason, that are the man-made reason or the human causes that are also responsible for the climate change. The first reason behind the climate change is one other natural cause is there, that is livestock. Yes, when the cows or the various animals that we observe on the earth surface. So this livestock also release the methane in the atmosphere. So this methane is also very important greenhouse gases. When the concentration of the methane increase in the atmosphere, that also responsible for the global warming and indirectly for the climate change. Yes, let us see what are the human causes that are responsible for the global climate change. The first very important factor, that is use of fossil fuel. Dear student, you know that the human being use the fossil fuels for various purposes. Burning of the fossil fuel such as coal, mineral oil, and various gases produce the carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Therefore, when the human being use the lot of fossil fuel, it means what? It releases the lot of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, pollutant in the atmosphere, and these are the things are responsible for the global climate change. So this is very important. And yes, we are not going to avoid this use of fossil fuel, because human being need for the development of the industrialization or the various purpose. We don't have other option, lot of option for the fossil fuel. Therefore, this is a very important factor, that yes, the human being responsible to create the climate change at the global level due to the use of fossil fuel. Then second thing is the deforestation. Yes, deforestation is also man-made process. The cutting down forest on a large scale is known as a deforestation, and various human activity that are responsible for the deforestation at the various places. And when we cut down yes, you know that the forests are very important factor or the means to maintain the ecological and the environmental balance in the atmosphere. You know that the forests absorb the carbon dioxide and release the oxygen into the atmosphere. But when we cut down the trees on a large scale, that time we minimize the number of trees that are available on the surface. It means what? There is a source of the absorption of the carbon dioxide decreasing day by day. And when you know that geographically we require at least 33% area should be under the forest or under the trees. But unfortunately, due to the human activity, industrialization, urbanization, and development, the number of trees, area under forest is decreasing day by day. And that is the reason that the carbon dioxide is increased. The concentration of the carbon dioxide increase in the atmosphere, because we are the human being that cut down the large of scale, trees on a large scale. So therefore, this deforestation is the process that responsible for the climate change. Industrialization is again very important process. You know that the human being use the create a power machine factory and through the industrialization. So when we use the various that fuels or various things, that power machine in the factory, that time it releases the many pollutant in the atmosphere in the form of greenhouse or the other pollutant, like chlorofluorocarbons or the methane, or these are number of things that are released from the chimneys of the factory or from the various factory, and that all things are responsible for the climate change. And again, the human being also use the various nitrous oxides and methane and carbon dioxide for the various industrialization, the process. And when we use these all things in the industry, that time this factor also directly or indirectly responsible for the climate change. And you know that the agriculture is very important activity that carried out by the human being on the surface to fulfill his need. But when we do the modern agriculture, I am talking about the modern agriculture. When we do the modern agriculture, that time we use the various chemical fertilizer, pesticide, and these things also release the various things or the pollutant in the atmosphere, and that things are responsible like methane, nitrous oxide, or the other things that are also responsible directly or indirectly for the climate change. because there are a lot of things. They play a role as like a greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. They absorb the heats, and when they absorb the heat, there is a global warming. And yes, when the global warming is increased, directly it impact on the climate change of the global level. So these are about the just one important thing is that source of greenhouse. One important the survey was conducted at the international level in 2018, and whatever that they given the statistics information about what are the factors that are responsible for the greenhouse gases, or the source of the greenhouse gases, or they release the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And you know that I just mentioned that greenhouse gases is a very important factor behind the global change or the climate change. As per that survey, nearly you see this pie diagram, and here you can easily see that near about 72% fossil fuel is responsible to contribute the global greenhouse gases. It means what? When we use the fossil fuel for the various purpose, it may be vehicles or it may be industry, that time we release the carbon dioxide on a large scale, or carbon monoxide on a large scale, and that is responsible for the greenhouse gases. Second is methane is also that methane. I just mentioned that methane also we use for the various purpose. It is released from the garbage, or it is released from the the pesticide or the chemical we use in the agriculture, that also responsible for the greenhouse gases. Nitrogen oxide also very important, that also released from the modern agriculture or the various method, or you can use the in various fertilizers or in the chemical factory or in the pesticide company, that also responsible for the release the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. And one very important thing, that is the fluorinated gases. It means that gases we are using in the refrigerator, in the AC, or the various things that used by the human being as a domestic purpose in his house, that are also responsible for the release the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, especially when we throw the garbage, wasted food, that also responsible for the greenhouse gases, dear students. So therefore it's very important, the greenhouse gas, when there is an increase in the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, then definitely there we observe the climate change. So let us see what are the effects or the impact of the climate change we observe at the international level. The first thing, that rise in the sea level. Currently it is rising by 1 or 2 millimeter per year, and dear students, very important thing that it is expected 50 centimeter rise maybe in the 2011 to 21 century. It may be possible that we definitely going to see this type of the 50 centimeter rise in the sea level. And yes, that there is a very bad impact you will find on the human settlement and the human life also. Second thing, that ozone absorbs the huge amount of carbon dioxide. More temperature, that carbon dioxide make it more acidic. Yes, when that the ocean water absorb the carbon dioxide, it directly impact on the water will be the acidic. So this will be also one very important side effect of the global warming we observe at the international level. There is a rising in the ocean temperature also. Yes, it alert the range and the number of submarine species. Yes, that definitely going to have impact on the marine ecosystem, because a lot of the things or the biotic factor we observe in the ocean water, when the temperature will be increased, then definitely that impact badly on this ecosystem. So that is very important effect that we are going to observe in future. And yes, we already observe at some places this effect. Then next thing is the Arctic region of the North Pole is heating twice as fast as they are placed on there. So this is very important. So really this is the very important side effect or negative effect that is a gift of the climate change we observe at the international level. Then next things, and the next important impact of the climate change is, because of the global warming, ocean to expand, the glacier ice is melting, And yes, it is especially for the North Pole and the South Pole area. We observe the glaciers ice is melting very fastly, and the length of the glacier is decreasing day by day in that region. Even that we also observe in the Himalaya, or you can say the Alps, Rockies, and here also the glaciers ice is melting very fastly. The next is increasing in the sea surface temperature cause the change in the tropical storm and hurricanes that we observe in that particular temperate region. Then glaciers are shrinking. I just mentioned that at the North and South Pole and at the peak of the mountains of the various that we have in the world, there also the glaciers are shrinking very fastly. Then some of the species of the mammals like fish, birds, and the reptiles that are disappearing from the, and this is a very important loss of biodiversity we observe due to the climate change at the international level. Then one thing is very important. The crops are sensitive to the temperature and the precipitation. The crop yield is fluctuating due to the weather fluctuation. Yes, you know that during last few years, we are observing that the climatical phenomena, especially I am talking about the temperature increasing day by day and the precipitation also disturbed from their normal modes or the normal condition, normal phenomena. We don't have the continuous phenomena of precipitation. There is a change. And when there is a large, change in the temperature on a large scale or the pattern of precipitation large scale, that directly affect on the cropping pattern and production of the crops that we have observed in our Maharashtra also during this year also and last year also. There is a we observe the change in the pattern of the precipitation and also in the temperature, especially in the Vidarbha and Marathwada region. We observe this impact of the climate change in Maharashtra. Then important thing that next is that we increase the frequency of many disaster like a storm, flood, heat fevers. Yes, in Maharashtra also we are taking the experience of the flooding condition in the western Maharashtra, in Vidarbha also. Stormy condition also observed, especially in the coastal area. And yes, in the Vidarbha, heat waves is increasing a large scale. So this is the impact of the climate change. Climate change gives out of control wildlife. Disturbance in the hydrological cycle also we observe. It is due to the global climate change. Dear student, the climate change bring a severe weather event like a heavy rainfall, rise in the temperature, change in tropical storm and hurricanes. So this I already mentioned earlier. And last but not the least, and increase the hunger and water crisis. Yes, dear student, when the temperature is increased, that time it directly impact on the crop production. And yes, when there is a shortage of the crop production, then the various foods then definitely directly impact on the hunger. So especially I'm talking about the Africa continent. And even in some country of the Asia that facing this problem on a large scale. Water crisis is really what I'm saying, that the water shortage or the water crisis is a very important problem we are facing in India also, in the Maharashtra also, the Vidarbha and Marathwada. These are the places where this is the very common phenomena or the problem we observe. So it's nothing but it is the impact of or the negative impact of the climate change. Therefore, it is very important to minimize the intensity of the climate change. And the impact of the climate change we also observe in the health risk through rising the temperature and heat. When the temperatures rise, heat waves is increased, that time that directly impact on the human health. So therefore, it is a very negative impact of the climate change we observe on the surface. Dear student, lastly, we are going to focus on some measure or the control or the solution for the climate change. Yes, we are not able to stop the full the process of the climate change, global warming, but yes, we can able to minimize the intensity of the global warming through the various measures or solution. The first is reducing the energy consumption. So yes, if you reduce the consumption of the energy, that yes, we know that when we use the energy that time, it releases the various pollutants and the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. If we reduce this process, definitely we can minimize the source of the greenhouse gases. Save energy is very important. We try to save the energy. When we save the energy, then there is a less use of the energy. And when the less use of the energy, that definitely we release the less amount of the greenhouse gases and pollutant in the atmosphere. Therefore, this is a very important. Encourage the use of renewable energies. So those energies are renewable. It may be the non-conventional energy like a solar energy, wind energy, or the other tide energy. If we use this energy, definitely we can able to minimize the intensity of the climate change. And plant a tree. Yes, this is a very important thing. I just mentioned that the deforestation is a very important process that are the factor behind the climate change. And to check this factor, we have to plant more tree on the Earth's surface. And when we increase the number of trees, then definitely that trees will absorb the carbon dioxide that are concentrated in the atmosphere. Therefore, the plantation of the trees, very important things, we have to do it collectively. Reduce the food waste. The food waste is the important source to release the methane in the atmosphere. If we reduce the food waste, then definitely we can control, we can check the release of the methane in the atmosphere. And other thing is a recycle. You try to recycle what way possible. It may be paper, it may be plastic, or it may be whatever. Because when we produce anything to the industry, that means we consume the lot of energy, we consume the fossil fuel and release the pollutant in the atmosphere. So therefore, if you whatever way possible to try to recycle these things, use again and again, that definitely use to minimize the intensity of the climate change. Very important thing, that is educate yourself and other. Try to make awareness in the society. It starts from yourself. That we not I mean, you have to keep in your mind that you should not be the part of the increasing the global change, temperature change, global warming in the atmosphere. If you check yourself, you do your behavior very carefully, that you're not responsible for the as a one important factor or the reason or the cause for climate change. You try to control your action, control your behavior, and also inform to other. Yes, you don't do anything that are directly or indirectly responsible climate change. And yes, it is your duty as a student. You are a main part of the society. So therefore, it is very important, educate yourself and other regarding the climate change. And if you do all what you can say, the collectively these things, then definitely we can able to minimize the intensity of the climate change, control the pollution. So yes, this is also very important. You try to whatever we do our development, sustainable development, that are not harmful for the next future or the next generation, and you try to control the pollution activity through our various activity. And last, very important, make your home energy efficient. Means whatever energy efficient means, it's a very important thing. Turn off the light when you leave a room. That is very important thing. Joining the car sharing club, it means it can be save the use of fossil fuel. Use the public transportation. Turn off the running water when hand you are washing. Plant a more tree. These are things you can do. These things, if you do all these things, definitely we can able to control the intensity of the global warming. Dear student, this was about the global climate change or the climate change. In next lecture, we are going to discuss very important subtopic of the chapter, that is ozone depletion. So okay, thank you.